After a brutal, mind-numbing season for the Huskers last year, we finally got some breath-reviving life blown back into our lungs by the signing of Micky Joseph. And immediately he turns to the portal and waves through some serious talent. But Gary, we've got some talent coming back. Before we get to all of that, please hit the like button. Do not forget to subscribe. We said that on the last video, and I didn't think you'd actually do it, but wow, you did. So thank you to everybody. I think we got about 100 more subs from the last video. We just want to thank everybody for that. Now, the wide receiver room. I hope I'm not too high on them. I'm really excited about what Micky's brought in. Starting with Omar Manning, let's go through the guys that are coming back. What do you think about Omar Manning? You know, he was special in high school. He's 6'4", 225, big body, NFL style receiver. What do you think?
I think, like every year, a lot of it's going to depend on the offensive line and the quarterback play. You know what I mean? To me, it's the more crucial of all the positions where you're relying on so many other people for you to be able to succeed and flourish. Running back, you need a little bit of a run block so that I mean, not a little bit, but you know what I'm saying? You need some lanes to go through, and then you can kind of be a stud and do your thing. But there's a lot of moving parts for a receiver as far as quarterback having time to throw, making the right reads, making the right pass. There was a lot last year. We had a lot of Toure coming back to balls, skying balls over guys, things like that, because of where the passes were thrown, things like that. I feel like last year we had a lot of talent at the receiver position, and it was tough to know it because you didn't really, it wasn't on display a lot. I think especially on paper, watching film, I think there's even more this year. And like you said, with Micky Joseph, looking at his track record, what he did with guys in LSU, he brought a couple of them with him. We've got a couple other guys coming in, but I think the tone he's already brought from what you hear from the other players, like Alante Brown and Omar Manning and guys who are already here talking about how drastically different that room is now that he's here. I think he's going to make everybody better. I think guys are going to hold themselves a little more accountable. There's going to be a lot more competition. Guys are going to work together in a competitive way to make everybody better. And I just hope that the rest of the team flows well enough to showcase that talent. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you were explaining to me, you think Oliver Martin is going to get a bigger role due to having players leaving. You think he's going to be next up in the food chain?
Yeah, I mean, just right off the bat, I could be completely wrong. I think I think Trey Palmer. I know you want to get into the transfer guys later, but I think Trey Palmer is going to be a starter. I think Alante Brown's going to be the starter in the slot. I know everybody's talking about Ramir Johnson getting some snaps and doing stuff like that, but I think it's going to be Alante Brown in the slot, and I think Oliver Martin will be the other receiver on the other side. I could see different rotations in that. I think one thing to take into consideration is Whipple likes to use the running backs as receivers. I could see Ramir, not to go back to our last one, but like you want Yant, and that's who you kind of threw out there. I like Ramir is staying in the backfield for that aspect as well as his receiving abilities. And I also like Grant, you know what I mean? So at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these running backs with high numbers and receptions, along the lines of some of these second rotation receiver guys. So it's there's a lot of talent, and everybody's going to have the different guys they like. I know a lot of people are excited about Crawford. Um, Belt's always a fan favorite, things like that. But I mean, I you need depth at receiver, obviously. And if we're going to pass as heavy as people are anticipating we're going to, as long as we're able to get the ball out, I think you'll see a good mix, a lot of guys, but I think those three will be the main ones. And I think you'll see Manning a little bit more as like first in off the bench, first in on four wides, more of a possession type receiver when it's not going to one of the tight ends, which there's a lot of injuries with the tight ends. That's, we'll talk about that another time. But um, yeah, man, I mean, those are the three I like. I really like Omar Manning. I hope he can get in there more, but I mean, there's only so many slots to fill, so we'll see.
New guys, all right? The best name probably in college football history, Decoldest Crawford. Man, I can't get enough of the guy's name. I'm really hoping that he's not another Marlon Lucky, all right? That was a dope name that didn't pan out at all. What's going on with Decoldest? Do you think he's going to get redshirted? I mean, he's young. We've got a lot in the room already. Are we going to be able to redshirt him and get away with that, or do you think he's going to try to want to play this year?
Well, I think everybody's going to want to play this year. I think one big thing that's really good for teams, I think, across the board, I think it's good for teams, I think it's good for players, is you've got the 4 game cushion where a guy can play 4 games and still not have to, or you can still redshirt him.
Great point.
So, along with the running back position, I really think that we're going to get a lot of committee, whether it's running back by committee, wide receiver by committee, until you see who fits. You and I have talked personally before, and there's guys that are maybe all around or maybe certain things better than another guy, but in a specific system, this guy stands out or this guy's more useful, this guy stands out to the coaches more. So I think it'll take a little bit of that, a little bit of guys separating themselves from the rest of the pack before it's kind of hard set who's going to be what positions. Um, I don't know how that goes over, man. I don't know how getting a guy to decommit from LSU and come here and then telling him start the season or a couple weeks in, hey, we're going to redshirt you. Maybe he's for it. Maybe he's fine with it. Maybe he's not. I don't even know that that's even in discussion. I haven't heard a lot about him. Didn't hear really anything at the red and white game unless I missed just drawing a blank or something. But it's a deep position, man. It's a deep room, and Mickey Joseph seems like the type where he doesn't really care what guys think or whatever else. He's going to do what he feels is best, and people are going to roll with that. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you redshirt a guy like that. Palmer is the other one he brought in that seems to be getting a little bit more hype and people are excited about. And the biggest standout, or one of the biggest things for me about him, was his return abilities. So, I mean, if he's doing his thing returning, do you kind of, even if you want to start him, do you kind of cut down his snaps so that you've got him as a returner and you're plugging in other guys rotational? Now you've got a little more room for a guy to step up. It's just there's so much unknown with this team, man. Like you've talked twice now about the guys we brought in, but I mean the whole offensive side of the ball and the special teams has new coaches. So I mean not the whole offensive side, tight end coach thing, but there's just so much unknown with the type of system we're gonna have and what schemes and things like that we're going to run, and how many receivers are going to run out of our base package, how many running backs are we going to go or tight ends out of our base package. So I mean there's a ton of wait and see. It's fun to speculate, it's fun to have a little bit of high hopes, but a lot of Husker fans, rightfully so, are going to be super pessimistic, and it's going to take a good chunk of the season to show them something instead of telling them how good the team coming in is.
How high are you on Isaiah Garcia Castaneda out of New Mexico State?
On his film, I like him. He's another one where I keep hearing so much about these receivers in the slot, and it's like,
How many slot guys you
how
got?
many slots are we gonna have? He looks the part, you know what I mean? He a lot of his highlight film, when you look at it, it's from the slot. He's catching balls. He seems to have decent breakaway speed. I think we were looking, we couldn't find what his actual 40 time was, but just watching him on film, like he was pulling away from some guys, and he seemed to be able to find the open areas in the middle field and things and get open. I mean, he looks good. He came out of high school as what, a 2-star, 3-star, 2-star.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I mean, definitely looks better than that.
Whoa.
But he's at New Mexico State playing, Hawaii and a bunch of different teams. They did play Kentucky. He didn't look horrible against them. So I mean, I don't know, man. There's a lot of high ceiling guys or things there, but we talk about that and see that every year going into the season. So and another thing is, I don't think people think enough about, like, when we get guys in, we're getting all these guys out of the portal and everything else. We lose guys every year. We lose some big name guys every year. So I mean, who knows how many of these guys are going to be on the team halfway through the season or going into next year. So it's just speculation 100% right now on who's going to do what based on what we think the team's going to do.
When I watch this kid, something that stands out to me is I just feel like he seems like the type of wide receiver that is able to make a good connection with a quarterback and make the quarterback really trust him. So I could see him and Casey Thompson really, I think that's how he gets on the field right away, is if he develops a special bond. Otherwise, I don't think you're sitting Decoldest over him, considering the hype and the name and getting him from LSU and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the hype in the name is cool, but at some point, coaches work with these guys every day. They see them in practice, and then the games are going to start being played, and guys are going to produce or they're not going to produce. So
That's true.
going into last year, no one thought a transfer from Montana was going to be seeing the field a lot, let alone being our number one receiver. And yet that's what happened with Torrey. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, legit, who knows? Nobody knows what type of quarterback Casey Thompson's going to be. Is he going to be the type where whoever's open or whoever the best read is, that's what I'm going to hit? Is he going to have his guys he trusts, like Martinez always talked about, where he's looking for specific targets? Is he going to be rattled easy if the offensive line hasn't stepped up and he's got to take off and run? Is he always going to check down to the tight end or the short receiver or the safety valve on the running back? Is he going to try and force the ball deep? Is the line going to be good enough? He's going to have time to go through his reads and make those right. I mean, there's just so many unknowns. But going off the talent that you see on film, I mean, I think there's a lot of promise. Even if certain guys that people are high on don't work out, I think there's plenty of other options.
So I was talking about Isaiah maybe becoming Casey Thompson's favorite. I think that might already be taken up by Marcus Washington. I mean, if you consider the fact that they've already played together and they seem to have a pretty decent connection together. What can you tell me about Marcus Washington? Do you think he gets a chance to play early?
I mean, I can't tell you a lot. I mean, no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wonder, as soon as I saw that he was coming, I wondered how hard Nebraska went after him or wanted him before Casey Thompson. You know what I'm saying? Like, was that a Casey Thompson pushing for, or they were buddies or roommates or something? Obviously, there's more we could look into and try to figure that out. But I don't know, man. It's when you're that, I want to say stacked, because people get upset if you're not proven. And I'm one of those people, don't get me wrong. But I mean, as deep as that room is, to go and get another guy like that, like, is that cause for concern? You know, are you thinking like, man, we don't have a guy that's like, or maybe we only have one or two guys. Like, let's go get a guy that he's familiar with and see if this comes along. Or maybe he's not progressing to the point where it's like, let's get him a guy or two that he's comfortable with. Or is it just kind of a, oh yeah, he wants to come because they're buddies or because of whatever, or he says something and now they added him. It just seems kind of odd to me at a position where you're pretty deep and you seem to have a lot of, you know, kind of congestion the same way the running back situation is. Of there's only so many spots and you have a lot of potential starters or potential, you know, top rotation guys to add him in. I don't know, man. That's there's so much unknown. You know,
I
we
know
can
it's
speculate all
tough.
day, but
It's tough me asking you these questions and putting you on the spot, making you do all these damn predictions when it's so up in the air. But it's just kind of the fun of it, you know, just kind of thinking about what could be.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we were looking at Casey Thompson's third year with Nebraska, Whipple and Joseph and Applewhite, all of these guys third year and a lot of returning starters, it'd be a lot easier to make the predictions and to, you know, maybe go on a limb and say this new guy's going to come in and challenge for a spot or do whatever else. But I mean, you've got so many new coaches that we don't really know 100% what the plays are going to look like, what the system and schemes are going to look like. You've got so many new players, you don't really know who has the ability to compete with someone else for certain positions. I mean, for the last few years, we've heard whoever the backup quarterback is better than Adrian Martinez. And whether they knew much about that backup quarterback or not, they knew what they didn't like about Adrian Martinez, right? So, and the people who loved him knew what they liked about him, but they didn't really know what they hadn't seen from, you know, be it Smothers or Vedral or any of the other guys that were backing him up, or McCaffrey. So now it's all unknown. You don't even really have that thing you like unless you're talking about a returning guy or the potential that you think you're getting in a newcomer. So it's just it's I mean, if anything, it's kind of a little light at the end of the tunnel if you're an optimistic fan, which I would think most people are in the sense of, you know, how bad can we be for how long? You're waiting for something to turn up. It's kind of a good sign when you're starting to get higher caliber guys or people leaving big name schools to come here. So, I mean, it sucks and it doesn't make for an exciting video, but there's just so much wait and see, especially at that position, that it's hard to say. Uh, I don't see Trey Palmer not starting. I guess that would be my big takeaway from going out on a limb from not seeing him play in this system, whatever it's going to be with this quarterback. He just seems like he has so much talent, the size, the understanding, obviously, of Mickey Joseph's way of doing things. And then you add in that he was brought here. I shouldn't say he was brought here. A lot of the big excitement about him coming here was as a return guy. I don't think you put him on the sidelines and just have him return.
I think that's fair to say, man. So finally, we get to Trey Palmer, the number one guy that we feel like we got this class. Is that fair?
Um, that's arguable. I mean, like
That
I
seems to
wouldn't
be where all the
shit
hype
on anybody for
is.
thinking that. Well, I mean, if you look at like the most important player on the team as the quarterback, you would have to say Casey Thompson is probably
True, true.
the
I'm
most
saying
important
from
guy.
wide receivers aspect, though, just amongst wide
Yeah,
receivers.
yeah, I would say that amongst wide receivers for sure.
All we know right now, though, is that he's a really good return man. And that's
No,
great
he's a good
because
receiver. He put up some decent numbers last year as a receiver in a stacked receiver, in an actual real.
that's where I'm going with it. Like, I really think that I just don't want to. I don't want to get too excited, man. I don't want to get my heart broken by getting too high of expectations. But I just feel like when you're playing on LSU's wide receiver depth chart, it's got to be a lot tougher to get. It's not the same as somebody who couldn't get snaps in a Husker jersey last year. It's just not the same.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and so if he was getting snaps and doing decent at LSU, dude, I mean that's got to translate. I don't know. I hope it translates. Of course, it doesn't have to.
Yeah. I mean, you could go pretty deep into that just in comparison of offensive lines and quarterback play as far as a passing situation goes. I mean, that's what I mean, man. There's so many parts of like, is the offensive line going to be what it was last year? You would think injuries alone, it's not, but you look at losing Cam Johnson, what that's going to mean for the quarterback play. Um, Casey Thompson seems to be more of a passing pass first, looking to pass quarterback than people say than Martinez. I would argue the last year or two of Martinez, he refused to run and was looking to pass until he had no other choice. But that's another conversation as well. I think if you just put all things even, you say that you're going to get quality offensive line play and you're going to get average or better quarterback play, then I would say, like I said, Palmer, Martin, and you could interchange Manning with Martin or whatever. I think he's going to get plenty of looks in the rotation there. But I mean, those two, and I think Alante Brown will be the slot guy for the most part. And I think they'll be good, pretty successful.
Over the last 5 years, would you say this is the best wide receiver room you've seen in the last 5 years, or not quite?
No, I would say when we had Spielman and Morgan,
Oof, oof, that was
and
nice.
then yeah, and then you can add in when we had Wandale, if we were able to use him as
Mm,
an receiver and not have to put him at running back because no one could get him the ball in the passing game,
woulda,
that
coulda,
could change.
shoulda.
Right. But I mean, that could change once the season goes. And if Casey Thompson's able to pick apart defenses and get these guys the ball and they're even part of what they're cracked up to be, then yeah, everybody's going to go, this is crazy with these so it's tough to say, but like I said before, I say to you all the time, like I like looking at what we're getting and seeing the potential and looking at where there's room for improvement, things like that. But until you start seeing something and you see it on a consistent basis, it's it's fun to speculate, but I'm not going to sit there and be like, this is the best receiving core. This is going to be the best quarterback. I mean, we just don't know, you know?
Agreed. Let us know in the comments, y'all. First of all, hit the like button on your way out, but let us know, who do you guys like the best in this wide receiver class? Have we overestimated anyone? Have we underestimated anyone? Do you guys think, like me, that Omar Manning's going to step up and be the guy? Because that's who, after looking at all these guys, I'm rocking with. Who do you have anyone for the number one receiver this year? Who do you think is going to lead us in receptions?
I think it'd be Palmer.
Palmer.
I think he's the most, I don't know. From watching his film and then what he did, then already being with Mickey Joseph as long, I think he's gonna just fit in comfortably. I think his confidence is gonna be there. I think his ability to route run and run after the catch will be big as long as Thompson's able to get people the ball.
Well, let us know in the comments. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Go Skurs.